Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we're speaking with a NICU nurse who has her bachelor's degree in healthcare studies and in nursing. She started competing in 2018 and competed in 3 regional shows. And at her 3rd pro qualifier at Nationals in Miami, she won the overall and walked away with her pro card. Welcome to the show, Brittany Gillespie. How are you doing?
I'm amazing. Thank you, Celeste.
Of course. I am so happy to have you here, and you listen to this podcast, so you know I have to ask if there's a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Honestly, I don't have anything in particular that I do. I still feel like before I get on stage, I honestly still feel pretty new to competing because I think I've only done like 6 shows now. So before I went on stage at Nationals, my last show, I was trying to just like get my head in the game and envision going out there, what it would really be like at the box and everything in front of the judges. And I realized I had just completely blanked on my routine, like right before there was one girl ahead of me. So I kind of just quickly like went through the motions again to myself, like right there off of the side of the stage. Because I don't know what it is instilled for me, like when you just see the big stage lights and you see the whole crowd, um, it just like flips the switch in my head. And I'm really glad I was like, wait a second, let me remember, like get myself together because I'm just like in shock right now before I went on. So I'm still so nervous before I go on stage. I'm glad it didn't show too bad this last time, but I honestly had to like remember my routine because I get so nervous.
I think that's a common thing too, especially with people going in front of you. Like, I personally try not to watch the girl before me because it will throw me off.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that journey to getting a pro card, because you were 1 point away from your pro card at North Americans, and you said that really lit your fire to see what you could achieve. And then you came out on top at Nationals, which was the biggest nationals there was. And I was curious if you saw that coming or if you had any doubts about it.
No, I had no idea when I was going to compete at North Americans last year that I would get so close. So it was like an emotional like roller coaster for me. And I mean, I just wanted to go out there and just have fun. And I think that might have contributed to me doing well because I wasn't stressed at all this show weekend. And I was planning on just ending my season after just like one show before that. But then once I saw that I was so close, I didn't want to leave that like stone unturned, and not give it another shot in December. So it was a really big, just a huge mindset adjustment because I thought I was getting really ready to be done with prepping because the last like few weeks were pretty rough. Maintaining stage lean, you just don't feel good. And then I was like, all right, well, it's time to strap in for another like 15 weeks and stick it out to give it another shot. Like I don't want to leave this close. So it was a really big adjustment for me. It was super exciting, but I did not see it coming at all. But and then it was hard too because I felt like there was a lot of expectations on me now. After getting so close, I was like, oh wow, all these people are watching me. All these people that I know now expect me to get my pro card, and I'm committing so much to this. But I'm so grateful for it. And obviously it was an amazing surprise that like I'm so thankful for. So it was awesome, but it was definitely a huge mindset adjustment for me because I wasn't going for my pro card at all.
You were really going for what sounds like the experience and to see where you were at, and then you were going to maybe take some time off and reassess.
Yeah, and North Americans is I think it's the closest national show to me, and my other show was just local, so it was just easy. It was a 1 day show. I've never like done a 2 day show. I've never like seriously traveled for a show or flown or anything like that. So I was like, yeah, we'll just, keep it close to home, keep it easy. We'll just
Mhm.
like show up because I feel like I am, improved. That was really just my goal.
Got it. And you had come from 2019, I believe, placing like 12th at Junior USA. So to come back and do so well at North Americans must have felt really, really good.
Yeah, I knew I was like finally bringing my best, finally like properly conditioned. I knew I had been like hitting my variables for a long time before that. So it felt right. And so yeah, I just wanted to step up in the big leagues knowing that I had given it my all. So I felt like I was ready to participate with like the big dogs now.
Love that. And you had, said that you were planning on taking an improvement season before that, and just like ending your season. But once you did place as well as you did, you wanted to keep going. So what was your feedback at North Americans? And then what did you do to make those changes?
My feedback was to come in a little softer and to not grow my shoulders or my quads anymore. So, and that was just, it was crazy because that was my first time I feel like ever being truly conditioned, and you never feel like you're lean enough. So, it was kind of good feedback to get, but also like kind of scary to let yourself be a smidge softer than you have been before. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, when you do so well, it definitely like makes you like helps light your fire again to keep going. So we took a diet break, and it was really amazing because I already had like a camping music festival planned and like a trip to New York City that month in
Wow.
September. And I was still able to do those and really just, I didn't bring my food or anything. Like I just lived my
Mhm.
life because I still had like maybe it was 15 weeks or something until nationals, and I was already like lean enough. So we took a diet break. I had those trips, and then we just started prepping again, tightening up at about like 8 to 10 weeks out from nationals. And so that was really amazing. Like I got to have a life break and a
Yeah.
diet break. And so I was really refreshed. And my body had only been in a deficit at that point for 2 months or so. So I think that really helped me look fresher and fuller.
I love that. And that's so interesting. So once you came back from those vacations, did your body respond as well as it had been, or did you have any sticking points?
It was about the same. All three shows that I peaked for last year, we were on about the same calories in the final few weeks. I was a little bit lower to get lean for nationals, which I kind of expected because it had been most of the year dieting. But only probably I think I was probably eating around 70 carbs in the final weeks before the show, which I think is not too bad. So it was my body had become a little bit adjusted down still, even with the diet break. But I don't think we ever really went below like 1,300 calories and an average of like 45 minutes of cardio a day. So it was really never too bad.
I love that. And you got to enjoy those trips that you had previously planned. Did you have any anxiety about going on them or concern since you did decide you wanted to keep going after?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people after shows with reversing, there's like the angel and the devil on your shoulder where it's like it's really hard to hold back your temptations to indulge, but then you also have a lot of guilt when you do indulge. So I definitely I went to New York City like a week after North Americans, and obviously it's like food galore, cookies, gnocchi,
Mhm.
drinking. And I had, I enjoyed some here and there. I didn't have any like crazy huge meals, but I was really struggling with anxiety in the back of my mind. I knew we still had plenty of time at least, but it kind of like hampered a little bit like my happiness on the trip because it's just your mindset after you've been prepping for so long. And now I have this like these expectations on my shoulders to turn pro at the end of the year. Um,
Mhm.
but and then I actually was worried at the music festival that I would maybe like lose muscle because I was like, we're going to be walking and dancing like all day. Like, let me make sure I keep eating my snacks and stuff. And I actually ended up gaining like 3 pounds from that music festival. So I was a little stressed.
Mhm.
But we still had like probably 10 or so weeks after this point. So um it was okay. I knew I still had plenty of time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have allowed myself to have a little fun. But I definitely wanted like a mental break and like a social break. So it was all worth it. Like it all worked out in the end, thankfully.
It really did. It sounds like it helped you to kind of get back in that mental zone too, because it was a transition for you. You thought you were going to be going straight into like this life break improvement season, but you ended up continuing to prep. So, did you do anything else to support you mentally on that path to success?
I do journal a lot, especially in prep. That really helps me just get out my feelings that, sometimes others just are tired of hearing about or can't relate. And I think it's good to just take the time with yourself to sort out your feelings and your thoughts. And going into nationals, I really had to stop like assessing my physique as much. Like in the beginning, it was like, oh, this is so exciting. I'm getting lean for the first time in a while. Like, can't stop looking at the shreds. But then going to nationals, I was just, very stressed with the expectations and coming in properly that I was like barely even looking at myself because I didn't want to overanalyze about coming in right. So I had to actually stop. Like I would just take my pictures for my coach and really just stop like looking at my body. Um, and so that helped. It was something I had to do because I was just the emotions and prepping for so long, constantly having expectations on yourself to keep everything dialed in and improving. So those are some of the things I had to do. And I go to see my coach in person in prep, usually every couple weeks or so. And she always helps like to keep my head on straight and listen to me and keep me focused.
I love that you just shared that because I think a lot of times those red flags pop up of like over fixating on the body or having those prep goggles on really, really strong and never being able to validate yourself. And then on top of that, or only using your body to validate yourself. And then on top of that, like you were given feedback to come in like a bit fuller, which was new for you. And you had struggled with like always feeling like you needed to be leaner and leaner. So it sounds like you identified like what the red flag was, you worked to adjust it, you trusted your coach. Do you ever experience those types of bad body image days or that fixation on your body post show or in an improvement season?
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of had to apply the same tactic where I had this when I started gaining weight back, which happened a little faster than I wanted to when I started reversing. I think my body was just like kind of rebounding back at me. And I knew I still looked great, but of course you think you look worse than you do, and it's really hard to adjust to seeing your body change so quickly when you were lean for so long. So I would just have to again like stop trying to look for abs, stop trying to nitpick my body and noticing the new little bulges here and there and rolls. Um and yeah, and just being open with my coach about like how I was feeling. She would help like keep my head on straight. And it's funny because I was like getting so tired of being lean and feeling like a
Mhm.
zombie. I was like, I don't even want to look like this anymore. Like it's not worth it. But then, then once you start gaining weight, it's hard, of course, like for everybody. And I think you just need time for everything like internally to regulate out and emotionally to be able to accept your body again. I really think that for most people it takes like a good few months to like love your normal body set point again. So I've reached that point and I've been there for a little while now and it feels so good. And I just look back and I know it's a part of the process, but I just feel bad at like beating myself up for being too harsh on myself.
Yeah. And, I think sometimes like our body changes faster than our eyes can like keep up with or our mind can adapt to. So we have to be like really focused on like the purpose and the reason for these changes and coming to terms with them, accepting them. And especially after like months of dieting and looking for like new lines or chasing a pump or having veins or getting on stage looking a particular way, and you had to maintain leanness for so long. So shifting gears can definitely be tough. And sometimes it can influence like how we train or how we feel our body. Cause if we're like, oh, I'm too far gone, then we might sabotage. Or if we're like, oh, I need to, get to this point, then we might change that or get self-conscious and not train as hard. So did it ever like influence your behavior or like your motivation or drive?
Um, no, I knew that, now as a pro, like me and my coach, like we have a plan to what we have to do to bring our best physique, to be competitive. And I'm not gonna lie, I definitely was like, "Ooh, like, I would really like to do some extra cardio and, like, lose just a few pounds because, I have, like, these pool days and this and such coming up, and I just wanna feel a little better about myself." But I knew that, like, trying to put myself in a deficit again after all of this would only hinder, like, my long-term goals of, building my metabolism back up to a good spot. So, I would just try to focus on my training, and the satisfaction that you get from sticking to your protocols. But I definitely was tempted, like, I was like, oh, maybe I should, just diet a little on my own and like not tell my coach because I'm a little uncomfortable now. But I never did that. I just stuck the course because I want to really build my metabolism back up to where it was, and it takes a long time.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like if we don't stay focused on what we're doing, it's very easy for us to like fall into those types of habits or behaviors of I should go into a cut or I should just start a prep again rather than like focusing on the task at hand.
Mhm.
Now, with the stress of like well, I shouldn't say stress, but like with the focus of prioritizing, executing on your program in an improvement season and keeping your check-ins going with your coach, like what do you find or what have you found to be the most helpful for really trusting the process? Like what do you personally focus on or gain from pursuing this lifestyle and committing to those seasons?
Well, I mean, I send check-ins to my coach every single week, even in off season when you're really it's not fully necessary, but more for the accountability. It really helps me with staying on track. And it's I have to remind myself that this is life, this is real life, is like who you are when your body is in a happy place and you have the energy and the free time to spend it with your loved ones. So just finding the balance between I'm still being accountable, like I'm still hitting my protocols, but I'm trying to appreciate where we are now, where I'm able to build, where I'm able to feel like myself and to be flexible in what I do in my free time. Um, so yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me to another point, which is like, does anything become reprioritized in an improvement season that maybe was let go of or not a priority in prep?
Yeah, definitely. Mostly my like close relationships because when I was in prep, I was living like this like hierarchical life. Like I would look at my work schedule, I would fit in my workouts and my cardio, and then I'd fit in my meal prepping, and then I would just try to get as much sleep as I could. And I'd be like, all right, like I'm going to bed. And I live with my boyfriend, and we've been together for 5 years. And I was being more like a roommate because I had to be so focused and I wasn't feeling great. I didn't have a bunch of energy. And so, our relationship was still great, but now that I've been able to prioritize our relationship more and our quality time, that's been really amazing. So we've just grown even more together. And I definitely want to carry that into my next preps, like really carving out the time, even though it's really hard to like see my close friends and just, even though I live with my boyfriend, like just like spend quality like time just focused on each other.
What does that look like for you, like quality time and being really fully present?
Um, we're both homebodies, and he also competes. He actually recently started competing in strongman. And we both have very tiring jobs, so usually it's just relaxing on the couch together, and we might just like watch a movie, or sometimes we'll do like these cards actually where we open up and it has like relationship prompts, and we'll just have conversations with each other that we might not have otherwise, where we really really open up to each other and talk about like the depths of our relationship and our goals. So that's something we've been doing lately. um or just like hanging out at the pool, or like just going grocery shopping together. It's little things like that because we're so exhausted from our jobs and from our lifting. So just like little moments at home where we're like have our phones down and we're more focused on each other.
I love that. And I think it's difficult to be sometimes like less, I don't know that selfish is the right word, but like you said, hierarchical in your approach to a schedule when you do have so much going on. And that's something I've definitely been experiencing. And I know you work as a nurse and often have many 12-hour shifts. So how do you approach your like life on those days with nutrition, training, recovery?
So I used to try to eat 6 times a day, but with my work days, it's way too hard to try to stop for meal breaks that 4 times a day. So I switched it to 5 meals a day, after like collaborating with my coach. And she's very open. We have discussions about what my work life is like and how we can best fit our protocols in. So I almost never train on a 12-hour workday because there's really just no way, whether I do the workout in the beginning like of the day or after, that I can give my proper effort to my job and to the gym, because otherwise that's a 13-hour day at work and like an hour to 2 hours in the gym. And so I will usually only train on my days off, and sometimes I'll do cardio if I do have a full 12-hour work day. um but yeah, it's unfortunate because I never get a true full rest day because
Yeah.
I need to use my off days for focusing on my training and not being restricted with my time and energy. um but I mean, it worked. Like, it works is not the best, and I wonder sometimes like if I were to, oh, if I wasn't a nurse, like this would be so much easier, and I wonder if I would have better results. But it's still worth it to me. Like, I love what I do, but you just have to find the times where you can have the most energy and unrestricted time to devote to your training. So that's what I do.
So your job requires a lot of focus and precision and really like you got to be on. So what do you do to support that energy and focus, especially if you're like experiencing prep feels?
Um, in a way, they kind of like complement each other. Like, I think those of us that prep, like we like being super, weighing all the food to the gram and like doing everything on a tight schedule. And that's kind of how nursing is. Like, and so it just kind of fits in. And I like the way our care times work with our baby is like lines up with when I have my meal breaks. It's kind of funny. And so I actually like how it distracts me. Usually I'm so busy that I don't really have the time to be thinking about how hungry I am. And so I definitely take in a lot of caffeine more than I should. So that helps. And then honestly, I just think with how busy you are, sometimes like I'll even not even get the time to eat on time. So it's not too bad. I mean, it's not ideal, but honestly, the distraction helps.
It helps to be there for that long.
Yeah, or just to be so busy. Whereas if I was like working from home and I would see like my container of almonds like 5 feet away, like I'd probably be struggling more with like my food focus and hunger. And whereas when I'm like just on the go, on my feet, like in the patient rooms, so busy the whole time, it just kind of helps take my mind off of like how I'm feeling, because I have to, like, I have no choice but to be present in those moments.
So true. And a lot of nurses struggle with being around like goodies or treats from patients at the hospital too. Like, is this something you deal with, or are you just like so busy you don't usually have to?
Oh yeah, they're like always there from the patient families. They bring in like donuts and all kinds of things. So
Mhm.
it's really hard, especially you go back there and everybody's eating it. And sometimes the comments about your food definitely can get a little frustrating from other people that don't understand. So it's definitely hard. Like I still like long for those foods when I see them on prep. Like I'm not like that much of a machine to where I'm like, oh no, like the thought of a cookie, like, and I want my goals too bad. Like, no, I definitely am like longing for a cookie. So it's definitely hard to be around.
Yeah, and I think it gets harder like the further into a prep you go as well, because your body's like naturally going to fixate on food more because there's a lack of it.
Hmm.
How did you get into nursing?
Well, I'd always been interested in the human body and healthcare ever since I was young. So, I was studying healthcare studies in my first degree, and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with that. But from my like clinical experiences, I just felt so much reward from being in the healthcare setting with patients. It was so rewarding to connect with them and to see the impact that you can make in their life. So um, I had an internship where I got a rotation of nursing, and that which was just it for me. Like I just loved the way that nurses are able to help patients and their families through the experiences they're going through, like a lot more than the doctor, because you spend so much time with them and you're the one like holding their hand as you're like helping them through a procedure, and you're explaining everything to them, um, and explaining everything in a way that they can understand. Like a lot of times the doctors leave and they're like, what was that? Like, can you help me understand? Like, how am I going to feel? Like, what does this mean? What is this equipment going to mean? So it's very rewarding. And in the NICU, it's very relationship based, because our patients will be there for an average of a month or sometimes much longer. So you really spend a lot of time with these families for a long period of time. So I love that it's detail oriented and fast paced and exciting. And the relationships you get to make and to see your patients improve over time is just like really rewarding.
And was that the internship in Spain, or was that somewhere else?
Yeah, it was actually in Spain, because I was like am fluent in Spanish. So this was in college when I was trying to help my skills. Um, so yeah, it was a nurse in Spain that I was shadowing with.
Wow, that is amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was so amazing, such an amazing opportunity. Um, my school just really encouraged you to go abroad and had so many programs. So I'm so thankful I was able to go on that trip and really find my passion.
That is so cool. And you foresee yourself staying in the field?
I do. I mean, sometimes I wonder if like the tough schedule and how hard it is on your body, if maybe I might ever potentially in the future go down on my hours to part-time or something, because my cortisol level is like extremely high, and it's just been staying extremely high even though I don't feel stressed in my daily life too much, but I'm like this really can't be good for me. So sometimes I wonder if somewhat of a lifestyle change would help me succeed more in competing, but it is what I love to do. Like I love working somewhat of an extreme job. Um, so sometimes I wonder about like maybe going down on my hours just for like competing sake if it came to that.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point you make about like you don't always notice the stress, but like your body's noticing it, and so it would leave you like wondering how could that look differently if you weren't doing it.
Yeah, right.
And I am curious, when you were in Spain, you had actually ended up becoming a certified bilingual nurse at some point in your career. So what was that process like, and how did studying Spanish there and receiving that actually influence how you view the field and the way you show up now?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. I love that question.
Yeah.
I started learning Spanish in middle school, and I don't know why, but I have just had like the hugest passion for it ever since before I started. Like I was so excited to start learning. And I did volunteer work here locally at a clinic that provides free healthcare to mostly immigrants that are Spanish speaking. And I just saw how lost that they would feel for so many reasons. And at least if I could help with their language barrier and being somebody that they could actually communicate with rather than using a translator, that was like my goal. And so I only recently took the certification exam for my hospital like a few months ago and became certified. Um, it's really hard if you don't keep up with it on a regular basis. It just is so easy to forget. But yeah, I have like a natural like inclination towards like learning the language, obviously, because that in English grammar, I don't know why, was very easy for me. So I just want to use it to help other families, and it's just really amazing to see how they feel when they realize there's a nurse that actually they can communicate directly with, and so it's really meaningful.
It sounds really meaningful, and it sounds like it's coming from such a heartfelt place for you.
Yeah, it just makes the job like so much more rewarding because it just makes me really sad to see like we'll have babies there and they'll be there for like 6 weeks and their little name sign that somebody made for them has been spelled incorrectly like the whole time, and like I'll realize it, or just so many things lost in communication and them not feeling as well updated just makes me like really upset for them, and I just really feel like they deserve more, and I love to be able to give that to them.
I love that. That's such a cool perspective and something so unique that you can bring to the field and to the work that you do. I imagine like people have been really, really thankful when you show up and can do that for them.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. And, it's a nice, like, intellectual challenge too, just to keep up on my skills. So I love it.
Absolutely. And did you get into bodybuilding like while studying nursing, or like did this come after?
Yeah, it was while studying nursing. I was in I think going into my senior year of college when I competed for the first time. And then I took during nursing school, I was in a 2 year off season, which was amazing. And then pretty soon after becoming a nurse, I started the prep for my 2021 shows.
Okay, got it. And when you had decided to do that prep, I think you had taken a different approach, like more flexible until the end of the prep as far as dieting goes. So, how was your experience or approach to the most recent preps in comparison to past preps?
Yeah, they've all been so different, but I love like the method me and my coach Maria have figured out, and she's very open and to fitting it to my lifestyle, and I love that about her. I feel like she really focuses on me a lot as a person, and so I've done more of a bro diet, all interval style cardio prep, my first one, and then my second prep was a flexible meal plan, which was pretty cool. But we were dieting so extremely low that it was just not good. I didn't feel good. I didn't look good. And then this most recent prep, that long off season, I got my calories up super high. And so I did macros up until 6 weeks out from my first show. So it was just, I didn't even feel like I was prepping because I would eat like some fun foods here and there, and I still had a lot of energy. And then I do personally, if I had to pick one, it would be a meal plan, especially in the final weeks. So that's what we did is we got closer to our shows. Like once we get to 6 to 8 weeks or so out, we will go to a meal plan. And I do love how I feel on those too. Like I just, when it's time to focus and have a more predictable body every day from the same food sources and sodium and timing, I do like that too.
And do you track things like your sodium intake and water intake all the way from that point forward?
We had not tracked sodium until before nationals. She was like, keep it consistent. If you're eating the same meals every day, it should be about the same. But we wanted to really just nail an extra variable by tracking my sodium. So I actually just took a couple days where I measured how much sodium I used personally, and then I made that my daily amount. So I weigh out into little containers, like my daily salt consumption, and then would just use that throughout the day, starting at 2 weeks out from nationals.
Nice. I only
Mhm.
recently did that myself personally, like going into my most recent peak week, and I found it like interesting, and it was more helpful to put it in one container than like try to think of it or measure out little bits throughout the day.
Yeah, my friends, I know some people will use like the little salt packets that you can buy like in bulk.
Mm,
So that's also a smart idea.
that is
And
smart.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it made a noticeable difference in my physique. I don't know. I also only have one kidney, so I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes my water balance, I'm like, I don't even know. It probably is affected by my only having one kidney, but at least it made me feel better. We're controlling this variable. So
You say you only have one kidney, like it's like no big deal. So like what led to having one kidney?
yeah, I had it removed when I was a kid because one of them was just like really small and not functional. So I was having like episodes of, I guess, like electrolyte and water imbalances, and I would just have like high blood pressure and like vomiting and headaches growing up. And finally, they removed it when I was like 10 years old. So I just have one now. So I have to be pretty careful and like check my labs often. So thankfully, I mean, I've always been able, like this last season, to like drop the water I need to for shows for the most part. And I would never, I don't think, use like a diuretic or anything because I don't know, I'm just very cautious because I only have one. So I really can't mess it up.
Yeah. Wow. So do you have any other considerations you bring into this, like to support that or your health and functioning?
We do spend a lot of money on on kidney supplementation every month because, I have to take care of it. I've been taking like the Revive kidney supplement, which I do think has been helping. And it's really important for me to keep my water intake consistent because I'll get like headaches like that if I go
Wow.
down on my water intake. Like my body immediately notices and I feel the effects of that. And just other things like just anything like drinking stuff like that on the body or like post show. I try to be careful without having too much sodium or alcohol or letting myself get too dehydrated.
This is a really cool perspective on the body that I think you probably have because of this experience where you really do have to consider another layer, which is like you have to be really super proactive and tuned into your body. Whereas, like, maybe others who don't have to consider those things wouldn't think about their kidney health or wouldn't think about, organs in general. But this is really seemed like to spotlight that need and the function of your body too.
Yeah, it makes me grateful just like that for everything else that I have. When you have a certain scare or something to be careful of, it makes you just really grateful for your health. It makes you want to, take care of yourself. So,
So true. And you just mentioned your coach not too long ago, how she's really helped you to take an approach that meets your lifestyle and supports you where you're at. And you do in-person check-ins sometimes, you train with them in person, and this is different than a lot of competitors. So how do you feel this has positively impacted your journey?
In so many ways, they're really like a family to me. My coach and her husband, who's also a coach, and so he also will weigh in on how I'm looking. Sometimes he'll attend our check-ins to see in person as well. Um, I love it. I've tried being on a big team before, which was like super exciting, but I kind of like being with like a little bit of a smaller, more local team. I feel like they're my family. They put so much into me. And I think it's really beneficial for them to see my physique in person, how it actually looks and moves. Um, and because that's when you're on show day you're in person, and just like the mental aspect of getting to talk through things and have like a face-to-face conversation about how things are going. Nothing gets like lost in communication over text. And yeah, obviously training, my coach's husband Vlad really helps teach me like more advanced techniques, which I love. So yeah, it really helped me mentally too, to get to talk to her about everything that's weighing on my mind and everything I'm worried about. And it just made it like so much more meaningful when like she would come to my shows too, even though I was her only competitor. And it just meant like so much to me to like have her there and to get to win nationals with her there, because she was like a mother to me, and she would spend so much time like at these check-ins for me and travel to these across the country for me. And so it just meant so much. Like it really feels like a little family to me.
That's really, really special. And is this like a team you feel you will continue with for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I mean, especially she brought me in so perfect for nationals, like obviously. So I can only trust her, and she knows me, she knows my body, So of course, like I'm really excited to see what we can cook up together for our next show. So yeah, I was scared like going into nationals. I was like, I don't know, like is she gonna bring me in just right? Like I was scared just because I was, so anxious overall, but she did. And so I'm super excited to do our pro debut season together.
I love that. That is exciting. And you had planned to do a pro debut after nationals, but your body just wasn't responding the way you guys wanted. And that was from like metabolism and hormones. So, what are you working on now to bring your best and most improved look to the pro stage?
Yeah, we thought about like pushing super hard to make the Boston Pro happen in March, but we just know that my body and the fact that it wasn't responding at all to where the calories that I'm usually like seeing changes every single day, it was just a sign that we need to give my body rest. Because normally my body responded really well last year, and so we were like, we need to really take this sign and just rebuild the calories back up, because my baseline like maintenance calories had gone from almost in half, from almost 3,000 calories to about like 1,500 or so. So we just talked about it, and she was like, we need to get you in a place where your body is happy, you're in a good surplus, and you feel good, and we stay there for a while, and then we're going to prep, because we're not going to just like do a pro debut and barely make it by. Like we want to bring something amazing. And so I totally agreed. And I've never been one to like really push my body too extreme, and I mean I kind of tried that in 2019 and it just did not work for me. So yeah, so we're just taking the time, taking the rest of the year, almost probably start prep in December. So we're just slowly building calories back up, and I've actually only been training usually 4 times a week now because of my work schedule. Maybe to try to help with my cortisol levels as well, and just overall bringing back hormonal balance. Um, so yeah, we've just been trying to rest a little more and just slowly bring up the food. And I'm so excited. I've been like so motivated this whole time.
That's super awesome. And how will you know like when you're like good and your body's balanced and ready to rock?
Well, we've been checking regular labs, and so ensuring those are all like good. And a lot of it too is just like I can feel now that this is like where my body is happy. Like my body has actually, I think, lost a little bit of body fat and a little bit of water that I was holding on to in my reverse period. And I just feel like this is my body is like natural set point, my happy spot, like my energy is good. Like libido, my energy for workouts, I'm getting good sleep. And this is like the last few months I've started to like be like, oh, okay, I really feel good again. I really feel like my body is in balance again. So sometimes I think it's not just like, it's also like the qualitative biofeedback as well. And so, yeah, so I've been feeling that for the last few months. So I'm like, okay, good. We're like in my body's happy spot again. And we're going to spend another like 4 months or so like this.
Love that. And I have a random question before I get to your best advice. What was better, winning your pro card or winning the overall at the largest NPC Nationals in history with a perfect score?
Oh, well, definitely winning the overall. Like I still sometimes like cannot believe that that happened. Um, so obviously like that's super motivating, throughout your off season when you accomplish something like that. So I can't help but be like motivated for my future and like have a standard for myself. Like and the show was just amazing. Like the production compared to other national shows, like I felt like I was at an expo or like the Arnold or something because there were all these booths and the stage was incredible and there were so many like Olympians and big names there. And we were in Orlando, which was beautiful. Like everything about the experience was just amazing.
Love that. What was your experience at the JM shoot like?
Oh, it was really awesome. JM and his wife and the whole team, like they were just like really fun to be around. And it was really cool to get to like be in the winner's circle and meet the other class winners. And really all the divisions, everybody was so funny and down to earth. And we were just talking about how we couldn't wait to eat because we couldn't really eat after the show because we had this photo shoot. Um, so it was just, it was just such an awesome like celebration and definitely made you feel like a superstar. Like I never thought I'd be doing that, but everybody was so humble and down to earth. Like it was so amazing to get to know all the other bikini class winners because I look at that lineup and I'm like, these women looked so incredible. Like I can't believe like I was the best out of them because I am terrified of these girls. Like they look incredible. But
That's so
yeah.
cool. I love that. Well, I would love to now hear what your best advice is for people who've never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for those on their road to pro.
Um, if you've never competed before but would like to, I think one of the main piece of advice would just to be happy with your body before you start competing because it's going to throw you into a whole roller coaster of your relationship with how you see yourself. Yeah, even with loving my body so much, like in my off season, it still like changed my perception. I think that's like one of the biggest things and one of the most harmful struggles that we can go through as bikini competitors is losing the positive view and like clear-headed view of ourselves. So I would say like, that's the most important thing is to love yourself before you start competing because it's definitely going to test you. And on your road to pro, there's so many things I could say. Really, just like acting like a pro. Um, you have to act like a pro in order to earn that status. And I know there were like a couple little things I could have been better about going into North Americans. And I was like, I wasn't trying to get my pro card. And then going into nationals, I was like, yeah, I really have to act the part. I can't leave any variable like unturned and not give my maximum effort to. And everything else like should fall into place in time if you are like acting like a pro, year round.
Love that. And to expand on that, what did acting like a pro look like for you?
For me, it was like just things like my little things like water intake, that can be easy to like one day just let go by, or like your supplements, or having a couple extra like almonds here or there, eating some of the next day's food or something like that, and not practicing your posing like way more than you think that you should. And yeah, just coordinating all of that, giving your maximum effort to your training like every single day, and your cardio, things like that.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your journey and your advice for all of us. And I'd love for people to be able to reach out and let you know how much they love this episode and follow your journey to your pro debut. So how can they do that?
Yeah, I just have my Instagram. It is Brit with one T, and then my last name Gillespie with two E's on the end. Yeah, that's my Instagram. I post a lot like on my stories and stuff, try to be open about, just the daily life of going through your off season and whatnot.
Awesome. Well, I will put the links in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. So if you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page there. And if you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section and you'll be able to find not just the ways to connect, but you're also going to see full episode timestamps, so you can go back to certain parts of this episode summary, so a summary of all the topics covered as well as just in general. And there's different resources there too for you guys, for competitors, especially with mental health concerns. So with all that being said, Brittany, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. I'm smiling so much. I'm so grateful I got to come on. It's just unreal that I get to be on your podcast. So I hope I can help with, sharing my story. And thank you so much for just being like such an awesome role model in the industry.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for saying that. Now I'm smiling even bigger.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that. And just genuinely, I'm glad that we could do this today too.
Cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And with all that being said, hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it up.